This is another podcast of Real Steel Sports with James Krasnerick, live here on Spreaker Web Radio. You know that the off season for the NFL is tough for me to find topics unless there's tennis going on, which the big tournaments don't usually happen for another month whenever the men and the women go to Indian Wells, Miami. But for now, more or less script of big stories of the off season, and not a bigger one than Michael Sam, Missouri defensive end, coming out of the closet on Sunday, officially. Now, first off, I would just like to say my personal take on him is that, from what I've seen, he's a hell of a good man, hell of a good teammate, and much respect I have for him. And his teammates and the coaching staff at Missouri and the AD and the people who knew him, I have to give them a lot of respect too. Now, before I go into detail, I'd just like to tell you my opinion on the whole story. Is that when I think of Michael Sam, I don't think of the fact that he's gay. I don't. In fact, that's actually one of the few final things, the last things that come to my mind. I think of how tough it is to block him. 11.5 sacks, the co-defensive player of the year in the SEC. That's amazing. If you look at the last few SEC defensive players of the year, Jarvis Jones, Morris Claiborne, Patrick Peterson, and he had Eric Berry in 2008. Rolando McClain was a bust. Glenn Dorsey, Patrick Willis, D'Amico Ryans, David Pollock. That is a very, very, very impressive list. And all those guys, you look at Jarvis Jones, he's making away with the Steelers in the NFL. Mo Claiborne's learning how to become a good cornerback with the Cowboys. Patrick Peterson became a Pro Bowler with the Cardinals. You also have Eric Berry, who is more or less had a pretty good career with the Kansas City Chiefs. But for those people that are saying that him being gay is going to be a distraction, regardless how good he was, keep your mouth shut, because you're wrong. I'm going to tell you why. When Jason Collins was signed to all those NBA teams, and his teammates knew it, I guarantee you his teammates knew he was gay. When Wade Davis, who played in the NFL, was gay, people probably knew it. His teammates knew it. It didn't bother them at all. It didn't cause an uproar. It didn't cause a circus. When I think of Michael Smith and I look at him, he's got eyes like a human being, skin like a human being, walks, talks, breathes, smells, hears, eats, sleeps the same way as a human being does. He's a human being to me. And I judge him by the content of his character, not the color of his skin, not by his orientation, not by any of that stuff. The people who do that are a bunch of sick people. He's a great kid. He really is. And honestly, I was happy when he came out. You know why? Because he is not afraid of who he is. Very, very impressive career at Missouri. In 60 games, in his career, 60 solo tackles, 111 total, 32.5 tackles for loss, and 18.5 sacks. Very impressive resume. He proved in college football he can play with the big boys. He went up against the big guns. He went up against Bama. He went up against Florida. He went up against LSU. He went up against Georgia. People forget Jadeveon Clowney, who's the number one pick in this year's NFL draft by many of the pundits, for the best player heading into the draft. People forget he didn't win Defensive Player of the Year. In fact, he wasn't even a top candidate. Michael James did. Michael James this year outperformed Jadeveon Clowney. People forget that. People just say, oh, he's gay, this and that. No. He's a hell of a football player. He's a hell of a human being. Any day of the week he could play for my team. His teammates loved him. Fans loved him. Coaches loved him. It's not going to cause a media circus where he gets drafted to. If I was his teammate, I'd be telling the press, if they're asking me about him, I'd tell you the same thing I'm telling you guys right now. He's a great man, he's a great teammate, he's a great player. That's all you need. And he wants to be a great player. Whichever team drafts him in April is going to get a hell of a good player. It's a gold, it's like a, pardon me. It's going to be like hitting the jackpot with this kid. I factor him in as a base 4-3 defensive end. I do believe he could possibly play 3-4 outside linebacker because of his quickness and his pass rushing abilities. Kind of reminds me of DeMarcus Ware in a way. I think he's going to be a hell of a good player. I really do. I think he's going to pan out. I think that him being a mid-round draft pick, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all because he was in the SEC where literally about half to just under half of the best players in the league are from. He was the defensive player of the year. And you look at how deep C.J. Mosley, Jadeveon Clowney did not beat Michael Sam for defensive player of the year. He was the best defensive player in the best conference in 2013. If any team picks him, they're going to get a steal with this kid. And the whole thing, oh, well, he's gay, I don't want to take him. If you think that way, you're just screwing yourself over. Now, I know a lot of this country is not as accepting of members of the LGBT community as I am. I mean, if anyone who knows me could say that even though I tend to not register as a member of either side of the political spectrum, my views are more liberal than conservative. But, if anything, this will change a lot of people's view because a lot of people who are conservative and have those old-time beliefs and don't like the LGBT community, they love football. If their favorite team drafts this guy, it's going to change their opinion, and that's what we need. What is making me more proud about Michael Sam than anything is that he's not ashamed of who he is. He's proud of who he is as a human being. So what if he's gay? He's proud of who he is. That should have nothing to do with when you think of him. You should think of him as a great man, as a great player, and as a great teammate. And that's what I think of. I'd love to be his teammate. I'd love to get a chance to line up on the defensive front with him. I'd love to get a chance to crack jokes and walk with him. If anything, this will change the NFL for the better. Because NFL players who are more scared of coming out will come out. And they'll be less ashamed of who they are. I hope this kid, I don't care if he goes to Dallas, I don't care if he goes to Baltimore, to Cleveland, to Cincy, I don't care if he goes to any of those teams. I want this kid to have a Hall of Fame career. For the person that he is, for the work ethic he has, and for the human being that he is, he deserves it. That's just my rant about that tonight. I figured I'd wait about a day after he came out in order to finally make my opinion of it. I hope you guys like what I have to say. If not, you can always message, you can always email me. You know my email's on my profile. Just email me and let me know what you think about my shows and get back to me on what you'd like to talk about. I might be doing some fan shows a little bit, so stay tuned.